Welcome, everyone, to the Fandom Podcast Network special presentation of the Hair Metal Podcast. Hair Metal Podcast looks back at the thrash, rock, glam, and pop metal bands and music and events and everything else that heavily influenced the 80s and early 90s hair metal era music. We are proud to discuss the nostalgia of 80s hair metal. Welcome to Hair Metal Podcast, episode 23, the Steel Dragon Rockstar movie soundtrack. My name is Kevin, and I'll be your host, but I can't do this without my co-host. I'd like to welcome Mr. Michael Simmer. What's going on, buddy?
Kevin, how are you this evening? I was going to say, let's stand up and shout because we all die young, so let's not be reckless with our blood pollution. How's that? I got 4 of them in there.
Dude, I'm very proud of you, man. I'm so proud of you, man. That was well done. Yeah. So like I mentioned, this is, of course, the Hair Metal Podcast. We're talking about the soundtrack, and we're on the Fandom Podcast Network talking 80s metal. Love our 80s metal here. But we're going to be doing something kind of fun here, and I'm going to tease that. But first, Mike, we've been busy on the Hair Metal Podcast. First of all, episode 20, we did, this was your first show. We did 80s rock and metal bands. It should have been bigger.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was fun. And it's funny how it's always kind of coming up. You know, there's just like Black and Blue kind of comes up and all these other bands. It's kind of fun.
All the time.
Yeah, and then we did episode 21 with my co-founder Kyle. We did the Van Halen for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge 1991 retrospective, and then we talked about the upcoming Sammy Hagar 2024 tour, his Van Halen tribute tour. But Mike, I think
crazy how much Van Halen comes up too. Still,
I know, right? Yeah, but Mike, I think we have had so much fun in our last podcast. That's where we had the Hair Metal Podcast episode 22, our 1989 hair metal supergroup draft, where we picked our 5 band member supergroup and in 1980s era celebrity to help us promote it as if we were in 1989. And that's where we found out about I'm sorry, who was Nez's singer again? Bobby Durango?
Yeah, from the Rock City Angels. How could you forget?
Bobby Durango, yes. That was, of course, the idea that you and your buddies came up with there, and that was a lot of fun, Mike.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Still, there's not too many days that go by where I think, oh, maybe I should have taken this person, maybe I should have taken that person. Second guessing a little bit, but you gotta go with who you went with.
Yeah. I'm going back on, should I have made any changes? Nope, I was good. What was more entertaining too, well, not more entertaining, but just as entertaining is Kyle, who is, of course, our draft organizer and commissioner, drafted his own band of the Leftovers, which was pretty epic. So if you guys haven't listened to that, make sure you go back and check out that episode. It's also on YouTube. So if you're listening to this podcast, make sure you check out the YouTube because we're doing videos and slides and all that kind of stuff. But we did want to mention something. We're doing a crossover with our Hair Metal Podcast and here on the Fandom Podcast Network. That's a lot of fun. And what we're doing is this episode, of course, the Hair Metal, we're talking about the Rockstar soundtrack and the songs on it, more specifically the Steel Dragon songs. But Mike, we also had you on as a guest, and we did a Couch Potato Theater, which is our movie podcast where we celebrate our favorite movies on the network. Of Rockstar itself, where we actually just talked about the film. That was a lot of fun having you on, man. Did you have fun revisiting?
Yeah, and I went back and watched it after we talked about it too, and enjoyed it a little bit further as well after we were talking about it. So very enjoyable.
I think, and I don't want to spoil it, but make sure you check it out if you haven't listened to it or watched it on YouTube. One of my favorite topics was talking about what happened to Chris Cole. What happened to Chris Cole's band, his grunge band? Did he reunite with Steel Dragon? That was a fun discussion there. So yeah. As I mentioned, we are discussing the Steel Dragon soundtrack. But I saw a band, dude. And we always like to kind of show off.
A very good band.
Yes, we always like to show off our 80s hair band shirts and stuff like that. And I went to go see Living Color, and I got their T-shirt, and on the back it has all the dates. And I went to go see Living Color in what is it, San Luis Obispo, California, at the Fremont Theater. And it was a great old school style theater, and it wasn't sold out at all, which was, but it was nice because it
Yeah,
wasn't too crowded.
you look like you were very close. How far away is that from you?
For me, it's about maybe a 90-minute drive north of me. I live here in Santa Barbara, California. So, but San Luis Obispo, or Slow, as we call it, is a great little town, and that theater is just jamming. They're getting all kinds of bands. And I was going to go see Wasp and Armored Saint last year, but it got canceled because Blackie Lawless had to cut the tour due to some surgery.
His back or something, right? His back.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's a picture of the outside of the Fremont Theater there. The line was starting there. It was great. I got a little selfie there. And I got a picture of what the stage looked like. The best thing about this, though, Mike, is I wasn't sure like who was going to be opening up or not, if they're going to have opening band or not. And they had no opening band. It was really, really cool. And they went on, I think doors opened up at 7, and they went on at like 8:08 and just started playing. It was great. They said they started out with
how long did they play for?
They played till 10, 8:08 till 10 with with no break. And they started out with Kick Out the Jams by MC5, which was great. The best part about it, though, is that I think the drummer like messed up or something. And Corey was like, no, let's do this again. And they went into it, did it again. And you could tell they were having fun. They were kind of giving each other shit at times, which was kind of fun. And it was a really good show. I have not seen Living Color live until I hadn't seen him since 1989 at the LA Coliseum, where they opened up for Guns N' Roses and the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, I saw that one too. But you were lucky you saw Guns N' Roses. I did not. It was just LA. It was Living Color and the Stones. That was it.
Oh, interesting. Wow. They were great. As you know, of course, they're all excellent musicians. Vernon Reid was just killing it on guitar, dude. He broke a string after like the third song, and he was like looking, like during the song, he was looking for his guitar tech, and his guitar tech stepped away for a second, and then finally he came up. So when they ended the song,
was he at the bar?
What's that?
Was he at the bar? Where the hell was he?
I don't know. He must have just stepped away for a sec, because I was looking like, where is he? And Vernon Reid was like, but he was finishing the song with the broken string. I didn't hear any difference because he's Vernon Reid. And then he played another guitar for a couple songs, and then he got his orange one that he favored and played here. But I did want to shout out the bass player, Doug Wimbish. Now, he joined the band in 1992. This guy's a freaking legend, by the way. He used to be in the band, funk kind of dub hip band called Tackhead. He was a session musician for bands like, oh, maybe you've heard of them: Sugar Hill Gang, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, Depeche Mode, James Brown, Annie Lennox. It was crazy how many people he's played for. And before they started playing a medley of these band songs, he said he was honored to play with them. And then they started in with White Lines. Dun, 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 and they went right into it. They did a great medley of those band songs. And dude, Doug Wimbish is one of the best bass players I have seen live.
So what happened to the original bass player?
I don't remember. I didn't dive deep into it, but I don't know if he left or if he was fired or what. But ever since Living Color comes back and reforms, Doug comes in and plays. And his bass tech was on it, because it seems like almost after every song he was switching out basses, because he was like detuning the low string, and he wasn't like a slap and pop guy. He was kind of tapping the neck a lot of the times when he was playing, and then he would play with his fingers as well. He wasn't doing a lot of slap and pop. I did see that, but he was like kind of tapping it. Yeah. And man, he was good, dude. He was really, really good. Your thoughts? Seen him?
Yeah,
recently?
No. The only time I saw them was when they opened up for the Stones, and they were great. I mean, they of course, a band that definitely should have been bigger.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a combination of, they came around a little bit too late, but also because, sadly, because of they're all African Americans, probably didn't get the love from the community that they should have. I mean, they're all amazing musicians. Some people took it as sort of like almost like a novelty act, like, oh, there's a bunch of African Americans playing metal, but they should have been bigger.
The musicianship combined while I watching them, I was in awe. It was
crazy.
They were, man. And by the way, Vernon Reid has some of the most interesting, hilarious, and entertaining guitar face solos. The faces that he makes.
Interesting. All right, okay, yeah, I'll have to look at that. Yeah, I'll have to check that out next time I see them.
All right, let's get into some rock stars that were in the movie Rockstar. So we teased this in the Couch Potato Theater podcast of the movie itself, but we did want to remind the listeners and the viewers here because we're going to be touching on some of these rock stars here. But there was other rock stars and the obvious rock stars that were in this movie and contributing to the soundtrack. First of all, the young kid who leaves the audition as Chris Cole and his girlfriend are getting ready to do the We All Die Young song. That, of course, is Mr. Ralph Sens, a.k.a. Michael Starr of Steel Panther. And we also had, as Mr. Young Thor, the guy who took over for Chris Cole at that show. Most people will know him as Miles Kennedy, plays with Slash now. Of course, led the band Alter Bridge and excellent musician. Then we also had this guy here from Third Eye Blind, Stephen Jenkins. He played the guy that replaced Chris Cole and was the rival. I'm forgetting the name of the rival tribute band to Steel Dragon that they were in. So he was in that as well. In the tribute band, we have Nick Contanese. He played for Black Label Society. He was in the band. And one of my favorites, and I drafted him in my super group for the 89 super group, was Blas Elias.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. Of course, a lot of people will know him, of course, as the drummer for Slaughter, and he was the drummer for the Blood Pollution tribute band. As part of Steel Panther, bass legend Jeff Pilson, of course, from Dokken Dio and now in Foreigner. He was in the band as well and also contributed, of course, to the soundtrack and recording, as well as Zakk Wylde. Of course, people will most know him from Ozzy Osbourne guitarist and, of course, the Black Label Society frontman as well. One of the coolest looking guitar players, I'll tell you, man. I just love him. And
great guitar player. Always looks like he smells, though.
I know, right? I just love the way he played. He just looked so cool. I love the way how low he played his guitar, and and the sound that he gets, especially on No More Tears. My God. And of course, John Bonham himself played the drummer in the band Steel Dragon. Of course, the son of legendary late drummer John Bonham. This is Jason Bonham, excuse me. John Bonham. And Jason, of course, was in a hair metal era band back in 89, 90-ish called Bonham. The Disregard of Timekeeping was the name of that album. Do you remember that album at all, Mike?
Yes, that's the I'll Wait for You. How was that? Yes. The one song? Yeah.
I'll Wait, the Wait song, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything else off that album, but that was a killer song.
Yeah. And I got a picture here, of course, of the Blood Pollution tribute band there. Timothy Oliphant, actor, is the one on the left there, with Blas in the back there. And then, of course, here is the Steel Dragon band. And the exception of Cuddy, of course, the actor playing the lead singer there, and of course, Mark Wahlberg, the other guys all contributed to the recording of the album.
It had band has the fictional band, anyways, has the unbelievable fact of the drummer writing the songs.
Yeah. yes.
Which was very unbelievable.
Yes. That's true. Yeah. He must. I'm wondering if there's a backstory with Jason Bonham's character. If he actually did play other instruments, but he was like the drummer instead, and that's why he was musically inclined. You know,
That's why
Kurt Cuddy. You know,
that's why I was always saying that it should have been a series. It would have been better as a series, so we could have dove into more of the backstory of a lot of different characters, including the songwriting drummer.
That would be interesting, and why he was getting a blood transfusion. What kind of drinking and stuff led to that blood transfusion scene that he was having, or whatever that was.
Exactly. So, yeah. I mean, listen, Metallica. Lars is the second songwriter on all those, but I don't know if he comes up with the riffs or if he comes up with lyrics. I don't know.
Yeah, that's there you go. Well, we are talking about the soundtrack. Let's get in the main segment here on the Hair Metal Podcast. So I have a picture here. That's actually my CD that I own right here. There you go, Hair Metal Podcast. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to touch on all the songs that are on the soundtrack, but we're going to pay special tribute to the actual Steel Dragon songs. But what I wanted to ask you, Mike, was what was your reaction? Obviously, you went and saw the film, and then you heard the music, and then you learned more about the soundtrack later. What was your first impressions of the soundtrack itself?
Well, I mean, when listen to the music in the movie, I always thought that they were great songs, and I always thought who does this, because you didn't know who did it. When the first time I saw it, I always thought, is this some deep track that I don't know about? And I thought I have to look it up, and this is right around the time when the internet was just starting to come out. So I always thought the songs were killer. I always did. I just didn't know who did them. And big props to the songwriting drummer once again for writing those great songs.
When you started learning more about the soundtrack and the effort they went into it to have an authentic soundtrack and have this, basically, we call it a made up band because the band in the movie's fictional. But when you actually get together and call yourself Steel Dragon, record songs, and your label is Steel Dragon, and you're probably getting some cut of this as well. I can't think of a lot of other movies that have done that. I know there has been, but the fact of the lengths that they went to basically make sure that they had an hair metal era authenticity to the soundtrack.
Yeah, I think we talked about this during the previous podcast. I think the only one that comes really close is Almost Famous. The songs that they played in Almost Famous I think they were written by the girl in Heart. I always get them mixed up whether it's Ann Wilson or Nancy Wilson. But the guitar player of Heart, she wrote most of the songs that are in Almost Famous, and that got the 70s perfect. that movie. Yeah. And to be honest with you, this was someone who lived through that time period. We're looking back on it now, they got this really, really good too. I'm not gonna say they got it perfect, but they got the sound, they got the look really down pat, and I'm gonna give them a B+ for how well they did matching up that time period with this movie, because it really
repeat what grade you gave it, because I accidentally cut you out. You gave it a what?
I would say B+, A-, for the realism of that time period. Nothing seems too hokey. Nothing seems. There's minor details that we said before. There wasn't really tribute bands in the 80s. I grew up in Pittsburgh, and there was never a sold out tribute band show at a steel mill, or else I would have been there. But they got the parking lot vibe right. The small snippet that was in the parking lot, they got the stage right. How grandiose the stage was. So they got a lot of stuff right about that time period.
Even though it was two tribute bands competing here, you still had bands competing against each other. You had what's called the flyer wars in Hollywood. People ripping each other's flyers out, and that didn't just happen in Hollywood as well. So you had even if they weren't tribute bands, you had bands that were playing local, going to these big concerts, and probably trying to pass out flyers on cars at concerts, because that was a thing that happened everywhere. And yeah, you'd be ripping down like flyers
Yeah.
from like, you know, competitor bands and stuff like that. You know,
It didn't really happen. It didn't really happen in Pittsburgh because there wasn't really any places to put flyers.
right.
But you know, because it wasn't really a big city like that. And if you went into the city, you know, Pittsburgh, city of Pittsburgh in the 70s, or I'm sorry, the 80s was dead. There was nothing going on there. So you had to go to the burbs. But I do remember there was, in our town, there was like a parking lot that everybody hung out in, and there was bands who would come by and give flyers in the parking lot, just
Gotcha.
to hope
Yeah.
that somebody would come and check them out.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to get into the soundtrack, and we're going to mention all these songs on the actual soundtrack, because some of them obviously are not metal songs. Some of them are, but we did want to mention them. And then we're going to mention some of the songs that were in the movie that didn't get on the soundtrack, just briefly. But then we're going to give some love to the Steel Dragon songs themselves. I'm going to attempt to try to play them because I found a great YouTube channel. I'm going to give credit to them. We'll see how that goes. And then before we pick our favorite Steel Dragon song, Mike, I'm going to ask you how, and want the listeners and viewers to kind of ponder as well, where do you compare this soundtrack with the other movie metal rock soundtracks? Not just soundtracks in general, like Top Gun and stuff like that. We're talking about rock metal movie soundtracks. And I have a list, and I have some CDs here that I own myself that I'm going to throw out there. So, yeah. So start kind of pondering that, you know, about comparing this one.
Good.
All right, let's get into actually talking about the soundtrack. Okay, Mike. I'm going to list the actual track listings on the soundtrack, and I want you to give me just a quick little snippet of the non-Steel Dragon songs. So the first one we got is "Rockstar" by Everclear. We got "Livin The Life." That is Steel Dragon. Written by Peter Beckett and Steve Plunkett. We have Wild Side, which is the Motley Crue song, performed by Motley Crue, written by Nikki Sixx, Tommy Lee, and Vince Neil. At number 4, we have We All Die Young by Milenko Matijevic. And forgive me if I mispronounce his name. His name's going to come up again. Gentleman from Steelheart, lead singer, also written by Ken Kanowski, performed by Steel Dragon. Number 5, we have Blood Pollution by Twiggy Ramirez, a guitarist and musician, had played with Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson. Or that was his song. And it was written by Geordie White, produced by Tom Werman, performed by Steel Dragon.
But you know what?
What's that?
Geordie White is Twiggy Ramirez.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Same guy.
That's his real name. Yeah.
I think you're right. Yep. Thanks for the clarification. Number 6, Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi, of course. We all know that song by Bon Jovi. And number 7, we had Stand Up, written and originally performed by Sammy Hagar, performed and re-recorded by Steel Dragon and Blood Pollution. Number 8, we had Stranglehold by Ted Nugent, courtesy of Epic Records, originally by Ted Nugent. 9, we had Wasted Generation, written by Desmond Child, A. Allen, and A.J. Popoff. Jay Allen and Jeremy Popoff, re-recorded by Steel Dragon and Blood Pollution. Number 10, we have Lick It Up by Kiss, written by Vinnie Vincent and Paul Stanley. And number 11, we have Long Live Rock and Roll, originally written by Ronnie James Dio and Richie Blackmore. I believe that is from their Rainbow days, right?
It would have to be, yeah, because Richie was never in the Dio band. Yeah.
Yep. Of course, re-recorded for the soundtrack by Blood Pollution and Steel Dragon. Number 12, we have Devil Inside by In Excess. Number 13, we have Colorful, performed by the Chris Cole Band, but written and performed by Brian Vander Ark from the Verve Pipe and produced by Patrick Leonard. And then we have Gotta Have It by Trevor Rabin. He's also the one that does the rest of the musical soundtrack, Trevor himself. So I did want to mention,
I believe
real quick. What's that?
He was in Yes. I think Trevor was in Yes. I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the big claim to fame, was he was in Yes.
I didn't know that. Well done. That's awesome. Cool. But I thought the soundtrack music was also good in this movie. It set the tone. It was really good, especially like the lead up to certain things, which I thought was great. One of these songs, though, there's a song, a Steel Dragon song, that is actually not on the soundtrack, but is in the movie. And you can find it on YouTube too, which I'll get to a little bit later. But that is the song Reckless. So we'll get more of that. But I wanted to get your quick thoughts, Mike, on the non-Steel Dragon, the other songs that were on here. You got some favorites?
Yeah, I mean, Lick It Up was a classic.
Yep.
Great song.
Lick it up, lick it up.
I'm not sure. Listen, I love Wild Side, although it's been played to death. I would have preferred that they went with something off of Shout at the Devil or even Too Fast for Love, because
good call.
It just fits in that. It fits in that time period. I think Wild Side was that off of Girls, Girls, Girls. So that would have been like 80,
yes,
and it would have been like 89-ish.
That was 84, 85. I know because we covered it recently.
Wild Side
Theater of Pain came out after that.
No, Theater of Pain and then Girls, Girls, Girls.
Oh, was it? Okay, my bad. Thank you. Yeah. So what year was Girls, Girls, Girls?
I'm thinking Girls, Girls, Girls was like 89, 80. It was 88.
No, I think 89 was Dr. Feelgood, but it was definitely the previous.
Yeah, I'll look that up.
Yeah, please do.
But
I see your point that there should have been an earlier Motley Crue song. I think. Yeah.
And I mean, listen, Living on a Prayer, although it's been played to death. So 87. Girls, Girls, Girls was 87, right?
87. Okay.
It's still a little bit over, but so I would have probably went with something to Shout the Devil, Too Young to Fall in Love, something like that. Or even
that's a great call. I like that. There was a lot to choose from there. Yeah.
I mean, Living on a Prayer, like I said, is a classic. The kids today, the kids that I teach, they know that song.
Yeah.
So it is a classic, and
the lyrics kind of lend a little bit to some of the feel to it. So they do. And so that's, I mean, that fits in there. That fits in that time period. So I don't have a problem with that song being in there. Although, like I said, now when I hear it, it's just played so much to death. Is that it's almost an immediate turn off. Like turn off the radio, change the station. The Ted Nugent song Stranglehold, putting Ted Nugent's politics aside, it's an awesome song, great riff. And again, I think that song fits in perfectly where it was. Oh yeah, when everyone's all getting stoned and drunk and having the big orgy.
Yeah, which Ted Nugent has always been one who lives like a clean lifestyle. But
you said what I was thinking. It was perfect for the scene.
Yeah, perfect for the scene. Which I'm assuming maybe he doesn't have the rights to that song, because a lot of times when these bands have rights to songs and a movie would come to them and ask if they could put it in their movie, they want to know what scene that's in.
Yeah.
So if they would have told him that's the scene it was going to be in, I have a feeling he would say he doesn't want it in that scene.
Well, it was courtesy of Epic Records with arrangement by Sony Licensing. So I'm sure as long as they paid the money for it to license it, there you go. So
So like
every time I hear that song now, though, I think of that scene in the movie.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Look it up. Like I said, great song. Tragic story about Vinnie Vincent. He was just, just not all there and needed some help. And I don't know what happened. He went down a dark path. That In Excess side, Devil Inside, that In Excess song, I've always loved that song. Does stick out here like a sore thumb a little bit. I'm not sure that a new wave band.
It was popular during that time, and that was during that club scene, which you're going out to party. I like that they kind of threw in other songs that weren't metal, but they were of that era.
Right. Because you're going to have that. You're gonna have that in a club. You're gonna have that song in a club.
And he's getting tempted, the devil inside.
Yeah, I mean they all fit in that regard. And again, it's another one of those questions I had about that movie was when they do go to clubs after shows. I was thinking, what time are these clubs open till?
I know.
They go. Their concert ends at 11ish. they
Yeah.
got to get ready and go out and they get to a club about
We covered that on the Couch Potato
Yeah.
Theater. Remember, you're like, well, but maybe you hadn't been to enough clubs in Hollywood, dude, because it was like, party all night, sleep all day, man. They were open up late.
You have that, growing up in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh where everything shut down
Yeah.
at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand showing up at 1:00.
I want to mention the song, because it's a generic song, and obviously this band came out later, but they're one of my favorite bands from the late 80s kind of late 90s, early 2000 college rock scene, is Rockstar by Everclear. I freaking love Everclear. I've seen them 3 times, at least 2 for sure. And I thought that was a great song. I'm glad they, of course, got in on the soundtrack, and I think that's just a fun one there. Wild Side, definitely, it kind of fit, even though there was other options to choose from.
It does fit in there perfectly. It does fit in there for sure.
Yeah, it definitely does fit in there. Now, I did want to mention there was some other songs that were in the movie that were not in the soundtrack. And that is AC/DC, Are You Ready? Culture Club, Karma Chameleon, Def Leppard, Let's Get Rock, Def Leppard, Rock Rock Till You Drop, Foghat, Chateau, Lafitte, 59 Boogie, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Relax, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, Good Vibrations. That was at the end of the credits because they were giving crap to Mr. Wahlberg. I think they were pranking him at that time. California Girls was a Beach Boys cover done by Ralph Senz, aka Michael Starr and Peter Beckett. Talking Heads, Once in a Lifetime. Mentioned here, Steel Dragon, Reckless, which is a Phoenix Down cover. And I guess they gave credit to Jennifer Aniston's Believe in Me when she was like reciting the song that she thought that he came up with. Trevor Rabin.
Oh, good Lord. That's a stretch.
Exactly. This is what's listed, though. This is all the other music that's listed. Trevor Rabin that did the Batman theme. He recorded that. This is interesting. Steel Dragon, Crown of Falsehood, written by Zakk Wylde. Do you know what scene that?
Wonder if it's an instrumental.
Maybe, yeah. And then Pat King and Bryant Grant, Sheedies. I don't know what that one is. But yeah.
Don't know that one.
Yeah.
We're way down in the bottom there, I think.
Now, I did want to mention too that, again, real quick, Chris Coles' Steel Dragon tribute band Blood Pollution was played by, of course, Mark Wahlberg as Chris Izzy Cole, Timothy Oliphant, well-known actor, as Rob, the guitar player, the one that he hooks up with again later in the grunge era. Blas Elias, of course, plays Donnie Johnson on drums. He's from Slaughter. Nick Cantonese is Xander Cummings. He's the other guitar player that was in Black Label Society. And Brian Vander Ark, as Ricky Bell, was playing the bass. And then, of course, as Steel Dragon, we have originally actor Jason Fleming playing Bobby Beers. He did the lead vocals, replaced, of course, by Chris Cole. Dominic West, actor, played Kirk Cuddy, played the lead songwriter, but rhythm guitar player. And then real musicians, John Bonham as AC, played drums. Zakk Wylde as Goad, played lead guitar. And Jeff Pilson as Jorgen played bass. I got to ask you real quick, Mike, before we get into the songs here, they did a pretty good job getting this band together with real good musicians.
Yeah.
Was it missing anyone? Did you think they should have brought in someone else?
No, I mean, it's in that time period. I can't think of, if you want to say maybe a different drummer, but I don't know who that will be in there. I got to get Tommy Lee in there. So I think it went really well. I mean, everybody has the look, everybody has the attitude, and having Zakk Wylde in there brings it up big time. And I mean, Dominic West kind of pulls it off too, of looking like he's playing. I don't know if he can actually play or not, but he actually looks like he's playing. I mean, there's a lot of shots of Zakk that look a little bit better, but he pulls it off too.
I know that Dominic, they had to have someone that actually was an actor to play the lead of this band and to be the one that is the go-between to make the famous phone call. And we go more into Dominic West in the Couch Potato Theater Rockstar. So make sure you check that out because he's obviously got a really cool IMDb list there. But let's actually get into the songs themselves of Steel Dragon. All right. So the first song that we're going to talk about is Livin The Life. And I'm going to try to play this here. I have it shared here. And I want to give credit, some credit here, guys. First of all, if you want to go and listen to these songs on YouTube, some people did some awesome jobs here. I want to give a shout out to Eber Luis Gomez and his YouTube channel. He put all of the Steel Dragon songs up there. And also, if you want to listen to the whole Steel, I'm calling this the Steel Dragon EP. It's 7 songs. Is that too long for an EP or just about right? I mean, they're not Metallica long songs. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, 7 is kind of, you think of a record company be like, hey guys, we need to just throw 2 pieces of garbage on there. We'll call it an album because 7's too many for an EP and not enough for an album.
That's a good point. But I did want to give a shout out to let's see here. The Steelheart Rockstar full album, and that's done by Wanderers Videos. So make sure you check them out because they play the full album, and I think it's like 17 to 19 minutes or something like that. And then, of course, you can go check out Eber Luis Gomez and check him out, and you can see the songs individual if you just want to play them individually. So I'm going to attempt to do that. The first one we're going to talk about is Livin The Life, and this is the list that Eber put out there. So I figure, you know what, I'll just go with his list here. And Mike, if you can't hear it, just give me a quick holler and let me know here. All right, let's give this a shot here. Can you hear that, Mike?
Yeah.
There we go. This is Livin The Life. So, Mike, this is a good intro song, and it starts, I think it starts early in the Steel Dragon set. It shows people kind of, it was also the Let's Go to the Concert song, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah, when he's at the red light with the truckers and they give him the thumbs up. Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Your thoughts on Livin The Life?
Not crazy about it. It seems that was one that was sort of, you feel thrown together, and a lot of these, that doesn't sound like, I know it's going to sound odd, but it doesn't sound like Mark Wahlberg's character would be singing that, or Bobby Beers. It doesn't sound like a Bobby Beers song, which there is no such thing as a Bobby Beers song, but it doesn't match up well with the other stuff. It doesn't. I mean, we'll get to it in a second, but when we talk about the other big hits, it doesn't sound like it's the same guy who's going to sing Stand Up and Shout and We All Die Young. It does.
Yeah. It's funny. All these songs, a couple have different singers, but you have to kind of have to give up a little bit of, air here. Like maybe Bobby Beers and of course, Chris Calder, just very talented because you know what this made me.
They have a wide range. They have a wide range.
Because you know what this reminds me of, to be honest with you, is, and I'm not using this as an excuse, but Axl Rose has different ranges for different songs. Like he sings Night Train differently. He sings a Mr. Brownstone differently compared to other songs. And I don't know a lot of rock singers that change up and do that. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard Guns N' Roses and I picked up the album without knowing too much about them, I actually thought that there was 2 lead singers.
Yeah, exactly.
So I actually thought Axl sang "Welcome to the Jungle" and "It's So Easy" with Slash. Just seeing them. That's what I actually thought when I first heard the song. But this isn't the same guy who sings "Welcome."
Well, let's use the Axl Rose
There you
theory
go.
in this
All
one.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
that's as fans of this fake band
Yeah.
in this fake world, we're just
Yeah.
going to say that.
That being said, it does fit in well with that time period, the Livin The Life kind of
Yeah, yeah,
and that motif. It does fit in that time period.
yeah, and it's a great opening scene too, where he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know, in the car, and he's getting the construction worker to do
yeah,
the, you know,
yeah.
the horns and
And,
stuff. So yeah,
and again, that's one of those things that in that movie where I thought to myself, oh, I remember being
yeah.
17, cranking the music on the way to the concert. I remember that.
All right, next we have is Blood Pollution, and I'm going to bring this to here. And Mike, just confirm that you can hear this when I start playing it. Okay, so give me a second here. All right, I'm going to try to get to the intro here. And here we go. Can you hear this?
Yes,
Got it?
Yep.
All right. I love the way this sets up. And I love how he's scraping the pick, he's scraping the top of the strings. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it just gets right in there. I love that intro personally, man.
Great song, great hook there. Lyrics are a little bit, wonky, but with great riffs, great opening. That's one of my favorites on that album. It just really, I don't know whether it fits in that 84, 85 time period. It seems a little bit later,
Right.
but it seems almost like, listen, it sounds like a little bit like Marilyn Manson, what he would play. So,
Right.
which makes sense because it was written by Twiggy Ramirez. but it doesn't sound. I love the song. I'm not sure if it fits in the 84, 85 time period. Maybe it does, but I'm not sure. But
yeah,
listen, like Steel Dragon isn't straight up glam. They're not Poison. They're not Motley Crue. They're not Bon Jovi. They're sort of in the middle there. They're not a straight up glam band, so they can get a little hard. I get it. I'm cool with that.
You know what that reminded me of is when you had the kind of pop rocky but really good Skid Row debut album, and then boom, Slave to the Grind. You know, that is a straight up metal album, dude.
Straight up metal.
You love it.
That Slave to the Grind song is a straight up metal song. It is hard and fast.
Yep. All right, next we have We All Die Young. And let me bring this to the forefront here, guys. And Mike, again, just confirm that you can hear. Just give me a little auto saying you can hear this. Let me go ahead and hit play here. Can you hear it?
Yes.
All right. And of course, this is famous for the audition scene that Chris Cole gets nervous and he has to restart it a couple times. Originally recorded by Steelheart. Just love that intro, man. It's the ballad.
Great song. Great song.
Right, fast forward a little bit here. Yeah, there you go. I mean, dude, the pipes on that song, and we can't play the. We're not. By the way, just so you guys know, we're not playing the whole song. We don't want to, bore you guys. But if you know where to find these songs, we have to play a taste of it. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, where he's singing in a lower register to those screams.
Yeah,
massive range. And again, when I first saw this movie, and I saw them singing that song, I thought to myself, where is this? I was immediately hooked on that song.
Yeah.
Great song,
oh yeah,
immediate hook. And I thought to myself, how have I never heard this song before? I consider myself a hair metal aficionado.
Yep.
And how have I never heard this song ever before? Because it is an amazing song. And
It is.
and there is a backstory to why we've never heard this song.
Yeah, we'll get to that later, but yeah, there's something that when I first saw that scene and I heard that song, I immediately, when I first watched this movie, I'm like, I need to own that song. I need to own that song. And then I remembered, like, and this was before like really good eBay, and this is before stuff was more available. You had this soundtrack, but then it started getting me going, wait a minute, I want to find the original version.
Yeah.
And the original version was only released in Asia, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And I remember hearing the original version going, oh man, that's kind of cool. But I actually preferred the Steel Dragon version more.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Because it's in the movie.
Yeah. All right. So the song that is not on the actual soundtrack is this song. It's called Reckless. And let me bring this to the stage here. Again, Mike, please let me know if you can hear it.
Yes.
Right. All right, so this intro starts off kind of slow, and then it just goes right into a metal song. And this song is famous for Chris Cole singing a song that he can't write, or that he wasn't allowed to write. He has to sing someone else's song. So he's a little kind of pissed off because they're like, no, we're the songwriters. You just got to sing it the way. And he doesn't do it right. And Kurt Cuddy's looking, going like, what's going on?
Yeah,
sing it like we wrote it.
He almost kind of raps it.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Which
your thoughts on Reckless?
It was wise to not include it on the soundtrack. For how I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible. Good.
Okay,
call.
Why? I gotta know why. Why?
Because again, it's just I don't think it fits with the rest of the Steel Dragon songs. When he starts singing, it's the music does. When he starts singing, it just doesn't fit in there. It seems kind of hokey a little bit.
Right.
And it just doesn't fit with, when we listen to Blood Pollution, We All Die Young, Stand Up and Shout. I don't think it fits very well with that band.
I kind of feel it's like that song that you open up with and you get it done out of the way, or it's the song that you play before you walk off and wait for the encore, because you don't want people to make sure that's the last song they hear.
So I've seen kind of a pattern recently where bands open up with a song that they like, right?
Yeah.
Or a song that people like, and then they'll go into a song, so it's like sort of a roller coaster effect. Then they'll go into a newer song right after that, and then second or third or fourth song deep, they'll go with another song that people love. So they're interspersing here, going to get them on this high from the song that they love, and then a new song or a deeper track. That would be one of the deeper tracks.
I love Duff McKagan, but I didn't go to a Guns N' Roses reunion tour to watch him sing some old punk song.
Yeah, this is true. Although I will tell you, listen, you get your money's worth with them. They played for 3.5 hours.
This is true. This is true.
If I'm going to sit through some deeper, Guns N' Roses song off of Chinese Democracy to get some okay. I always need to go to the bathroom.
Hey, at least Guns N' Roses plays Slither from Velvet Revolver.
Yes, they do. No, I think last time I saw them, they played Vaseline. I think last time I saw them.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. The next song we have is Stand Up. Let me bring this to the forefront. Again, Mike, please let me know if you can hear it. Here we go.
Yep.
See the little scrapey part thing. I'm gonna fast forward just a tad. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Oh, wow. Stand up and shout. Okay, Mike. So
Great.
the first thing I think of in this song here, okay, the first thing I think of the song is I don't know how much lower that Zakk Wylde can tune down than he did in this song.
Yeah, it's way.
I mean, that's it's kind of a signature move that he does. He did it, of course, for No More Tears, but this is the thing that I'm like, that's freaking Zakk Wylde all over. Like he went in and just peed all over this song and saying, "I'm gonna make this my signature guitar."
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely tell that's a Zakk Wylde song. And this song now always reminds me of being at a Pittsburgh Penguins game because they always play it. They play it every time they're on the power play. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So it always reminds me. And I've heard it a couple other places too. Where was it recently? Where I saw it at a Steeler game. At a Steeler game. And I remember my wife asking about this. Is last year. I remember my wife asking, "What song is this?" And I told her it was from the Rockstar movie, and she looked it up and she said, "Well, it's a Dio song." And I said, "No, that's a different Stand Up and Shout. It's a different one." And it's played at the Steeler games too to pump up the crowd, which is awesome.
This is great too because it's the song that they play an intro song and then they come out and this is where you kind of like greet the crowd, you look at the crowd a little bit, and then you just do the slow intro like they did with the drums, and then the Bobby Beers or AKA now Chris Cole comes in and just really lets the voice out. And we also get to see the fans sing along to it. And as you mentioned in the Couch Potato Theater podcast, it was great seeing people like right up in the front, not 10 yards back behind a barrier.
Yeah, right up on the stage. Yeah.
This is probably one of the iconic Steel Dragon songs, I think, even though it was originally, of course, Ronnie James Dio and Richie Blackmore. But I just think this is one of the iconic ones. Your thought? You think so too?
Oh yeah, I mean this is definitely tied with "We All Die Young," even though I think "Stand Up" may edge it out by a nose, just because it's more up in my alley than "We All Die Young."
Yeah. All right. Next we have is "Wasted Generation." All right. Mike, let me know that you can hear this. Here we go.
Got it. Can hear it.
Oh. I'll go forward a little bit. So this kind of feels like the Wild Side version of the band because you're talking about you're talking about bad stuff that's happening to people, you know.
Yeah. What part of the movie is that in? I can't place
when is that one? I'm drawing a blank right now. I can't remember.
Is that the song that they play while they're in the steel mill?
I think so, and I think also it might have been a rehearsal song, maybe too.
Yeah. It's fair, you know. I mean, now that we did Stand Up and Shout and "We All Die Young," it's like sort of it's starting to go downhill a little bit.
Right,
not a bad song. Probably fits in that mold. I think the number one thing for me is does it fit in that time period for the sound? And it does. It for sure does. With both the sound of it and the lyrical content, both those fit in that time period.
Definitely, yeah. It's got what I like about it too is it's got one of those good to drive to, good to work out to, tempos, and obviously it's the lyrics are very angsty and they don't have a really a sad ballad sort of thing. But if this is the rock version, is definitely it. So yeah, it's a good one. Okay, the next song that we have is "Long Live Rock and Roll." Let me add this to the stage here again. Mike, let me know if you can hear it. Okay. Can you hear it?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. So this is basically the anthem song.
Yeah.
You need an anthem song, and
Yeah.
I think this fits that category. Like Bon Jovi's "Living on a Prayer" is an anthem song.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's a Dio song as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. It's so Dio. Ronnie James Dio.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, you almost have to listen to that with fairies and pixies behind you. Because it's so Ronnie James Dio, and it's Ronnie James Dio is one of those people that it's just not wise to cover. Just not wise to cover. I mean, there's a couple of people pulled it off. The Holy Diver, somebody remade Holy Diver, and did a good job at it. But that is a tough gig to pull off a Ronnie James Dio song, because he's just.
Why do you think I chose Ronnie James Dio as my lead singer in our 1989 hair metal era Super Draft?
Because he is that good. He is hard to copy.
Now, before we tip off what our favorite song is on the soundtrack, I did want to give some attention, and I'm not trying to sway the vote here, guys, but we need to talk about. He's gone by Mike Matajevic, but his first name is Milajenko, of course, the co-founder and lead singer of Steelheart. And he had a really cool video on YouTube, and I want to give him a shout out here. Make sure you check out the Steelheart Steelheart official on YouTube, where he breaks down "We All Die Young" and how it was written. And I got a picture here on YouTube of what he looked like back in his Steelheart days, back in the hair metal days. And this video this picture is a screenshot of the video that he did recently. And when I say recent, this was March 22nd, 2021. And he also goes on to say, "Don't miss this song" and other Steelheart jams for the 30th anniversary live stream tour on Dream Stage. And they were doing a contest where they were giving out a custom Steelheart leather jacket, which is pretty cool. But Mike, I had you watch this, and I wrote down some notes of the highlights of what he did. And this is only like a 7-minute video, and it's highly worth watching, because not only does he play this song acoustically and sings it, he kills it, but he gives a little history on the song itself and how it got into Rockstar. First of all, he talked about this, and I did not know this, Mike, the 1994 accident in Denver, Colorado arena, that he got hurt so bad. Basically, some lighting trussing fell down and hit him in the head.
Yeah.
Isn't this what happened to Teddy Pendergrass? If I remember correctly, wasn't he hurt because some stage fell on him?
That Teddy Pendergrass was a car accident.
Maybe you're right.
Pretty sure Teddy Pendergrass was a car accident.
Maybe there was some. Maybe I'm getting the artist wrong. There was some soul singer from the 60s and 70s that got hurt that way. But basically, Mike here couldn't go on with the tour. It kind of was, and plus you had the the grunge era coming in. This led to the Steelheart's demise at that time. Did you know that happened to him?
That was news to me. I did not know that at all. I mean, again, we've talked about this on the bands who could have been bigger. He came along in a period. That look on the left was in 1991. That is not a good look to have in 1991.
Yeah, that was being faded out. Yes. But boy, he has a voice. And so he goes on to He goes on to say later on that he connected with a guitar player by the name of Kenny Kanowski, who was in Buffalo, and he played the intro to We All Die Young. And Mike was just like blown away. And they reconnected later, and Mike wrote the lyrics for the intro lyrics for We All Die Young. And they ended up recording it for the Steelheart album called Wait, which was only released in Asia, but they did have some #1 hits over there. Of course, this music, I think, found a second life overseas. A lot of hair metal and rock bands are popular in Asia, Japan, and were able to tour over there.
South America.
Meanwhile, it was grunge land here in the States, right, Mike?
Yeah, and it's still, I mean, a lot of bands still go to Japan, still go to Europe. I mean, those festivals, those open air festivals in Europe are huge, and they're not just new bands, they're older bands.
Yeah.
And same thing with South America. South America, huge on metal as well.
Yeah. And I was reminded of that last year when my wife and I were in Australia and we went to go see Air Supply. You know, the two guys that makes all the love songs. And
yeah, sure. I saw them. I saw them about 2 years ago in Atlantic City.
Great show. Guys were amazing. The band that backed them up was great. But there was a large contingency of Asian fans there that love Air Supply. They're huge over there as well. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's weird how some bands stick and some bands, like Mr. Big, is huge in Japan.
Oh
huge.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And they were. I mean, they were okay here, but you know, when you hear about what they're doing in Japan, they're selling out arenas. It's weird how one band is not that big here and huge over there, and vice versa.
Yeah, I'm looking to see them on this tour this year. I hope that I can. Much smaller venue, of course. So Mike goes on to say in the video that he was later approached by the music producers of Rockstar and asked to participate on the soundtrack. And they asked, "Hey, do you guys have any songs that might fit this movie in this genre?" And they played "We All Die Young." They introduced it, and they loved it. They re-recorded "All Die Young," and of course, this is where Mike in the video here mentions that he recorded it with Zach Wilde, Jeff Pilson, and Jason Bonham for the soundtrack. And he mentions, Mike, and I want to ask you this question. He mentions "We All Die Young" became the theme song for the movie. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, Stand Up and Shout may have an argument with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think so, because Stand Up and Shout gets played how many times? Twice?
Yeah.
And We All Die Young only gets played once, right?
I think it was twice, and there was one of the concert scene too. They played it. I think.
Okay, all right.
Remember, but yeah, but no, yeah.
I mean, I think it's a tie. I think it's a straight up tie.
And I think this is the song that has resonated with fans, and I think this was also the song. And I'm not calling this a hot take, Mike, but this is the song that resurrected Steelheart, and this is the song I'm sure that they close out with when Mike Milijenko, Matajevic. Would you say?
For sure, this is their closer.
Yeah. I mean, it's an iconic song, and I think this is the song that's also endured the most from the soundtrack. Would you agree with that?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, because it's represented so well in that scene where he tries out for the band. I mean, it's everybody's favorite scene in the movie. So that helps.
Yeah. So then he goes on to explain what happened and what happened with the movie. Right after the movie was released, okay, the song was released on September, I think it was like 8th or 9th. It was for that weekend. And the song was being released to radio, video. The movie was #2 at the box office and had a big promotional push that was going to happen. But unfortunately, 9/11 happened on a Tuesday. On Tuesday after the movie opened, 9/11 happened. At the time, President George Bush, and this is what Mike says in the video, he banned anything with the word blood, die, kill. Any of those words that were on the radio was banned, so it ruined the whole release. What are your thoughts on that, Mike?
So he's half right? So it wasn't George Bush who banned it. It was Clear Channel. So Clear Channel, who owned 90% of the radio stations at that time, There's actually a Wikipedia page that has all the band songs on it, and it's crazy the songs there. So one of them was all Rage Against the Machine songs are banned, all of them. So
Yeah.
regardless of what they had. And then there was Jump by the Pointer Sisters, Jump by Van Halen. Anything with the word jump, anywhere with the word jump in it was banned. So it wasn't George Bush, although he may have had a hand in it. It was actually Clear Channel who did that, and Clear Channel actually got blamed by a lot of artists for sabotaging their career. Rage Against the Machine, I think, thought about coming after Clear Channel to sue them because
Interesting.
It's a way of sort of holding the band hostage because they were getting major radio play, and all of a sudden none of their songs, no matter what, could be played on the radio anymore. And like I said, it was Clear Channel who did it, who owned a vast majority of radio stations.
Explain who Clear Channel is for the listeners that may not know.
Clear Channel is just a company that conglomerate that owns radio stations in all different kind of genres.
Yeah.
Pop, rock, country, everything. They own everything.
Powerful. Yep.
And I think now they're starting to, because they don't have that power anymore because of internet radio and podcasts and Spotify and everything on Pandora. So their grip on the music world is sort of loosened. They don't have as much power as they did back then. But back then they just completely, and it was, I remember seeing that list. It was songs from the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
It was everything. And these poor bands who had just the word jump in it. You weren't allowed to play Van Halen's Jump on the radio anymore. So it was really kind of ridiculous.
What's interesting is I vaguely remember that, but I remember this is where I told you that I mentioned during the Couch Potato Theater Rockstar podcast was that I was listening to CDs only because I was rebuilding my hair metal collection at this time. I was heavy on eBay, and I was listening to hair metal internet radio. I wasn't listening to a lot of regular radio. I would see stuff on MTV, but that was a different medium. I was watching stuff on VH1. I was watching behind the music on VH1. They were playing. I felt like the old guy at the time because we used to make fun of VH1 because they were playing contemporary soft rock hits. But then when MTV stopped playing videos, then VH1 came as the cool video thing. So yeah, that's interesting. I appreciate that input.
I just took a quick look. It actually was a Clear Channel memorandum that went out to all the radio stations, and it was ridiculous. So Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap can't play it. So some of these you're wondering like why would that be? One of them was the Animals. We got to get out of this place. And Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World.
There's a lot of those have lyrics that can be taken a certain way. So I can see them being on that hit list, So yeah, well, so I want to ask you before we move on from Milajenko here, Mike from Steelheart, what was your thoughts overall on the video?
I mean, you hear of these sad stories, the things that these near misses and near hits, and you feel kind of bad for them because when I heard
it led to the flop of this movie. It was number 2, but it wasn't making a lot of money. Yeah.
When I heard that song, like I said, the first time I heard that song, I was thinking to myself, why have I never heard this song before? This song is a hit. This song is a huge hit. And when it was written in that time period, it still would have been played on the radio because it was not really hair metalish sounding. It was sort of more rocker, almost like Alice in Chains just a little bit. So it would have been huge had it not been for the time period that it came out, and just another sad story of a band that just nearly missed.
The thing that I did feel though was that the nostalgia for hair metal at this time was starting to grow. I wasn't alone here. And I wanted to ask you real quick, Mike, because I was going back and buying all my CDs back, listening to that hair metal internet radio turned me on to bands I had never heard of, and I was buying their stuff that was like 10, 15 years old.
Yeah,
that's where I discovered bands like Sleazebees.
Mhm.
and several other bands. I'm like, why the hell didn't I see this or remember this? You know, do you remember a resurgence in hair metal during this time?
Yeah,
And
I'm
with the
thinking more not '01, but I'm thinking more like '03, '04
yeah,
is when people, because when you do the math, and this happens so much in music, throughout music from the 50s on up, is when people grow up. I'm 15 in 1985. Fast forward to 2005, where I'm 35 and I'm wanting to relive my youth and listen to songs that I liked back then. And not only that, I had money to spend. So
yeah.
those bands
Same here.
who I couldn't see in 1985. Now I'm 35 and I have extra money to spend, and I can go and see
That's
those.
called disposable income.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yes.
And I remember
Yes.
seeing Rat. Um, right
Th-
before the pandemic, and I was front row. I was front row right in front of Warren DeMartini, and I thought to myself, I immediately thought, my 15-year-old self thinks I'm the coolest person on earth, because I would have never gotten that close before.
It's funny you say that, because I'd gotten really good tickets. This is when Motley Crue went back on tour. And I remember it was without Tommy Lee. They had the female drummer. I can't remember who
Right,
her name is.
yeah.
But yeah, this is when they were starting. Poison was playing as well. So yeah. Okay, Mike, let's go ahead and review the songs here, because I want you to pick Steel Dragon, Livin the Life, Steel Dragon, Blood Pollution, We All Die Young, Reckless, Stand Up, Wasted Generation, Long Live Rock and Roll. I want you to pick your favorite Steel Dragon song and then a really close runner up.
I thought you were going to say, and then sing it. Which I don't think no one wants to hear that. I mean, it's got to be We All Die Young.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's our favorite.
Yeah, I mean, just because the scene it's in is just so great, and you're rooting for the guy so much in that scene. Stand Up and Shout is obviously a close second, but I would tell you, just to throw this in there, Blood Pollution is really coming up on Stand Up and Shout.
It is. It's
really,
good.
I really like that song too. The rest of them are just sort of also rans, but those are my top three really. And Stand Up and Shout and Blood Pollution are very close. They may be 2A, 2B.
This is why I have you as my co-host, Mike, because we are thinking the same thing, man.
Yes,
we
do.
All Die Young at the top. Yeah, and I was gonna go with Stand Up, but then hearing Blood Pollution again, I'm just like, God damn it, Zach, you just winning me over.
That song just kicks. Yeah.
Okay, so we've picked our favorite songs. We've gone over the Steel Panther EP here, dude. I wish they would have just released this or done it in additional. Would you go out and buy that soundtrack at the time if they had just released those 7 songs as Steel Dragon?
Yeah, I think I would have. Yeah. I mean, or illegally downloaded it at least.
Yeah.
One.
Hello, Napster.
Napster or Kazaa or LimeWire or whatever it was.
Yeah. For Lars, man, he'd be on our tails.
Must be right up on you.
So I would
have put this in my Saturn that I owned, my Saturn car, and put it in the CD and just let it ride. Would have.
I would have put it in my Mazda B22 pickup with a 6-disc CD changer that was hidden behind the passenger thing, passenger seat. But here's the thing. Here's what they could have done. This would have been fun. You release these recorded 7 songs, but then you release like live versions of a couple of them, and then like them covering some obvious cover. And there you have a Steel Dragon full like album right there.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I mean, it could have worked. I mean, the songs are there. There's no doubt about it. The songs are there. I mean, in that time period, 01 or so, what were you thinking when you bought an album? Maybe there's 3 songs, good songs, maybe 4 good songs, and this has 3 or 4 good songs. Yep. So it's right where it needs to be.
Okay, before we wrap this up, I have one last topic, and I always like to do this when we talk about something. I like to compare it to other things. So this is a really good rock metal album, so to speak, right? But I want to know, and before you answer, I'm going to show some examples. How do you, Mike, and the listeners and the viewers, where do you compare Rockstar soundtrack with other rock metal soundtracks from movies? And I found an article here that I thought was very interesting. I disagree with some of the stuff here, but this is the best heavy metal movie soundtracks done by wearethepit.com. This came out last year, June of last year, by Michael Bearden. He says, those of us out there who love movies know how important music can be to the cinematic experience. A good soundtrack is often as essential as the script and cinematography, providing enough ambiance and emotional depth to push the scene over the edge. These are the best heavy metal soundtracks, according to this author. He starts off with Airheads, the movie Airheads from 1994, talking about grunge, but you had songs from White Zombie, Anthrax, Motorhead, Ice-T, Ugly Kid Joe's Whitfield Crane. He also gives Tales of the Crypt presents Demon Night 1995.
Yeah, I had that one. Yeah, I had that one.
With songs from Pantera, Machine Head, Sepultura, the Melvins, and Biohazard. Then one of my favorites, because it's got a great combination of everything, Judgment Night, 1993. You got Mudhoney, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Helmet, House of Pain, Slayer, and Ice-T. Then one of my
one too. Had that one.
Yeah, that one too. One of the obvious ones, the Crow album from 1993, depending on where you lived. You had Pantera, Helmet, The Cure, Rage Against the Machine, Stone Temple Pilots, and the Rollins Band. Then you have Last Action Hero. Movie might have not have been so good. That came out in 93, but you had a good soundtrack with Alice in Chains, Megadeth, AC/DC, Def Leppard, and Anthrax. He also mentioned, what's that, Mike?
It's a nice lineup.
Yes, yes. River's Edge from 1986, and had bands like Fate's Warning, 4 Slayer songs, Hallows Eve, Wipers, and Burning Spear. Then
I don't even remember. I mean, I remember that movie, but I don't remember that soundtrack.
Yeah, Resident Evil 2002 featured songs from Slipknot, Rammstein, Marilyn Manson, and Devil Driver. This is a movie I have yet to see, and I want to see it. The Doom Generation, 1997. With bands from Jesus and Mary Chain, Curve, Slow Drive, Lush, as well as a few others. And this one I totally completely forgot about. Queen of the Damned, vampire film, 2002. Jonathan Davis produced from
Korn.
Thank you, Korn. Featuring Deftones, Disturbed, and Papa Roach and Marilyn Manson. Okay. You don't have to pick from this list, Mike. I just wanted to show you something that was kind of new out there. But if you had to compare Rockstar to some of your other favorite ones, I want you to think about it for a sec, because I'm going to show you mine. Obviously, Rockstar. I immediately thought of the 81 movie Heavy Metal.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you've got Sammy Hagar, Riggs, Devo, Blue Oyster Cult, Cheap Trick, Don Felder, Donald Fagen, Nazareth, Riggs, Journey, Grand Funk Railroad, Cheap Trick again, Black Sabbath, The Mod Rules. I mean, it's just a great soundtrack. One of my favorite, and we may have to talk about this on a possible Halloween show or, something, but the Black Roses movie from 1988. It was one of those like, the singer becomes a devil or something. I've seen it once or twice, but the soundtrack, I found it because I'm a Bang Tango fan. Has Bang Tango, No Stranger.
Lizzie Borden on that? Is that Lizzie Borden on that?
Lizzie Borden,
yes.
King Cobra, David Michael Phillips, Tempest, Hallows Eve, and then songs by the band Black Roses. What else in there? Soldiers of the Night. Yeah, really, really good soundtrack. The other one I got to give credit to, by the way, check out that cover for Black Roses. It is freaking cool. I have the original VHS, which is embossed with this picture. It's really cool. Got to give a shout out to Wayne's World, dude. Because
there's some rockers on there, no doubt.
Yeah, so obviously, you got Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody. You got Hot and Bothered by Cinderella. Uh, you've got was it Time Machine by Black Sabbath, Ballroom Blitz, Foxy Lady, Jimi Hendrix, Feed My Frankenstein, Alice Cooper, Ride with Yourself by Rhino Bucket. But the song that I found out, because I'm a huge Bullet Boys fan, Bullet Boys did Rock Candy, a cover of Rock Candy on this album, and it's really good.
Oh,
But
nice.
of course, my all-time favorite, The Crow.
So let me throw one at you that you may not know.
Okay, what you got?
The Spawn soundtrack.
Oh my God, remind me. Do you remember what was on it?
The Spawn soundtrack. It like Corn, and like and it was a bunch of mashups too on there.
You're right.
Oh my God. Trip Like I Do was like Filter plus. So whoever did Trip Like I Do, was that say the Dust Brothers or something like that?
Right.
That was a massive. I mean, that was a rocker. I'm looking at it here. Metallica, Corn, Slayer, Marilyn Manson, Stabbing Westward, Filter, Soul Coughing, Silverchair.
Wow.
Crystal Method. That's it. Crystal Method. So they collaborated with all these electronic techno groups. The Crystal Method, Ronnie South, The Prodigy, Atari Teenage Riot, Moby, Orbital.
Wow.
They took all those hard songs and technoed them up. That was I love that album.
There's a saying that my wife and I have, where was the song that came from that movie better than the movie because it outlasted it, or was the movie better than the soundtrack, or did they complement each other? And I feel like the soundtrack was better than the movie overall, if I remember correctly.
I remember seeing that. That's a movie where I
Great
saw
call out.
First time I saw it, I loved it just because it was different, and I liked Spawn at the time. Second time I saw it, I thought, what the hell was I thinking? This movie's awful.
Yes.
It's just it's one of those movies where you want to like it so badly that you trick yourself into thinking that it's better than it actually is, and you see it again and you think this movie's horrible. What was I thinking?
Yeah. Let's not make this a Spawn couch potato theater, but yeah, I hear you, man. Jeez, yeah, great call out to the soundtrack. Excellent job. Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up. I got one more question for you. So just to tease, we have, of course, the Rockstar Couch Potato Theater crossover with this hair metal episode. So if you have not seen that, make sure you check it out, because we go all into the movie, pick our favorite scenes, had some fun categories, did some trivia about it as well. But Mike, my final question is, what are your final thoughts on the soundtrack itself?
Overall, I'd probably give it a B+. Yeah, I'd give it a B+. Maybe
that's a good grade. That's fair. Yeah.
B+, A-. I think the songs, they really did. With this, like we said earlier, with this album, with this movie, they really tried, and you could see that there's somebody who really kind of understood the lifestyle, and that really kind of understood that time period.
Yeah.
And they took care of this. They didn't throw a bunch of garbage together and say, "Oh, well, we'll have Living on a Prayer" and a bunch of songs like that. They actually went out of their way and wrote songs and that were similar to that time period. So I'm giving it a B+, right in the A- B+ category, because it really does. It signifies that time period perfectly. I think it really does a good job with that.
I would pay $50 and tax fees and whatever convenience fees to go see a really, really good Steel Dragon tribute band and play these songs
I'd be with there with you. I'd be with it.
I would totally do that. Would you come with me, Mike?
To make it a true Steel Dragon tribute band, that they have to pull somebody up on stage to sing, stand up, and shout.
Oh yeah, I would volunteer, but I suck as a singer. But I would totally do it. I'd blow my cords.
That's hilarious. Everybody's like, "All right, come stand up and shout." Everyone starts singing along, trying to get up on stage.
I'm sure someone has done that, and I would love to see that come to fruition, because I don't want to see these. The reason why I want to do this podcast, Mike, is I don't want to see these songs go away. Yes, the movie's great. The movie's fun, but I have these songs I have the soundtrack in my car. I have it digitally. and I love going back, and I do miss Reckless. So I still want the whole Steel Dragon thing, but I could just see them. Like, I would love, like you said, when we were talking about Couch Potato Theater, like if they did like a limited television series where we could see other songs introduced by the band. But man, you know what? Give me Bobby Beers. Give me a good lookalike without the red lapels,
And then no red lapels. Bobby Bears never wore red lapels.
All right, let's go ahead and close things out here. This is, of course, the Hair Metal Podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And we're celebrating, of course, Rockstar 2001 movie soundtrack, the Steel Dragon soundtrack. If you are listening to this, please make sure you check us out on YouTube. We're showing all the cool pictures and having fun with that, man. And subscribe to the Fandom Podcast Network. We'd appreciate it. Share it out. Just search Fandom Podcast Network and Hair Metal and Rockstar and all that, and you'll find it there. Our master feed for all of our audio podcasts are found at fpnet.podbean.com. You can contact the Hair Metal Podcast via email at hairmetalpodcast@gmail.com or on X, formerly Twitter, at Hair Metal Cast. My name is Kevin. I am on X, Instagram, Threads, and now Letterboxd at Spartan_Phoenix. Mike, I know you got a Twitter. Are you on that still, or how can people find you?
I rarely ever check the Twitter. Although you can always contact me through the Fandom Podcast Network, through Facebook. I'm always on there. I'm always commenting, having a good time there.
Yeah, check out the Hair Metal Podcast Fandom Facebook group. I'm always sharing everything hair metal there, tagging some funny stuff as well. We got a great little group there, so if you want to be part of it, please check out the Hair Metal Podcast Fandom group and give us a review. We're Fandom Podcast Network is on all major podcast platforms. We also have hair metal t-shirts. I got that cool banner behind me. Make sure you check that out. Mike, thank you so much again, as always. Now, before we close this out here, I asked you, we got some ideas for upcoming podcasts, and would you like to tease what we're going to be talking about next?
Sure. I think that the big one that we're going to be doing is we're going to do a deep dive into the Ronnie James Dio. What would you say, funded or gathered, or the idea, the brainchild of Ronnie James Dio?
Yeah.
The answer to USA for Africa, the metal version.
And We Are the World.
Yeah. Hearing aids. We're stars.
Check out, if you're watching the video, check out the pictures of the album, the actual vinyl I have here with all of, this is basically a who's who of metal. And we're going to be talking about all those people on there. And there's also I think I see a Spinal Tap.
There is Spinal Tap. Spinal Tap is in there, and they're actually in the documentary too.
Yeah,
there's
yes,
a documentary video, and they have a couple of great lines in there.
We're gonna talk about the documentary. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they have some great lines in there.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the documentary, the recording, and it is a 7.5 minute song with like a bunch of solos, and we're gonna have a lot of fun with that. Mike, first of all, thank you so much for coming on our Couch Potato Theater talking about Rockstar the movie, and thanks again for riding with me on the soundtrack, man. Appreciate you very, very much.
It's always a lot of fun, man. I really enjoy it. It's great to be on with someone who's a nerd for hair metal and all that stuff. I knew that somewhere a lot out there was somebody with that same sense of nerddom for hair metal.
Translation: Mike loves getting my early, like 4 to 6 a.m. texts, and I'm texting from the West Coast, and he's on the East Coast.
Yeah. Like, hey, he just texted me at 5:45 in the morning. What time is it there? I have to do some. Even at 5:45. I'm not great at math, but 5:45. It's tough to subtract 3 from anything at 5:45.
Well, Mike, on behalf of my co-host, thank you, sir. I'm Kevin. Join us again next time here on the Fandom Podcast Network's special episode of the Hair Metal Podcast that we just teased. And speaking of tease, we may tease our hair with Aquanet, slip on those tight, ripped jeans, leather pants, or lip service attire, or rock out in that leather motorcycle jacket. But remember, Every rose has its thorn, and on a steel horse we will ride. Hair metal lives. Rock on, everyone. Thanks, Mike. See you guys.
Thanks.